So what I refer to as data binding, two-way data binding, is that I can have a control bound to my view model, and if I change it in my UI, it changes my view model automatically. I don't have to write any code. Versus one-way binding, which will only display, it'll only go one way. So it only, you know, if I had a value of foo that said 1, 2, 3, it would show on my screen as 1, 2, 3. But if it was a text box and I changed it to 1, 2, 3, 4, it wouldn't change back, unless I use two-way binding. Did I confuse everybody? Did I put every non-WPF Silverlight person to sleep? Well, that's good, right? So what I'm about to show you, this is Silverlight. This isn't WPF. This isn't XNA. This is all running in Silverlight. So what we're seeing here is a sphere with textures mapped on top of it. And actually, each one of these is its own layer. So I can show you, if you're familiar with 3D graphics, I can show you the wireframe. I can show you the atmosphere. I can graph population density. I can even take control of that, and we can see the population hotspots. And we'll see that they actually make little mountains in that. I can spin the Earth around. Not a lot of people live in Antarctica. I can also turn on the magnetic fields. So this is all in Silverlight. I can change the rotation speed. So the code to do that isn't exactly obvious. When I first saw this, I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So this is markup called XAML. And what it does, it defines my controls, and it's basically an XML serialization of CLR objects. All of the 3D magic happens in this drawing surface. So there's a lot going on here as far as how this is drawn. So basically we have these geographic primitives, and I'm told that a lot of this will be, it's a really low-level API, which is great because you can really control everything. It's also bad because you have to control everything. So I'm told that there'll be a little bit more help. There'll be a math helper utility that'll be built into the SDK by the time this gets to RTM. I'm also told that there are a lot of 3D libraries already that exist that are going to implement on this. So Balder for Silverlight. And there's another one, Bright Kite, I think is going to implement this. So you won't have to realistically get into all this details as far as writing your own shaders. So this is actually not C# or Visual Basic. This is actually a language called HLSL, High Level Shader Language, which is actually what's doing the rendering. And the cool thing about this is actually all getting processed by the GPU. So we can run this again and see. I'm not really making a big draw on my processor. Yeah, I can do that all I want. I can add this. And we still see I have less than 5% draw on my processor. It's because all of this is being executed by the GPU. So one such environment, if I can find it, that's actually in progress now that will make a lot of this kind of 3D, creating these 3D immersive environments easier is a rendering engine called Babylon. So this is the mock-up of a Windows Cafe, which was, I know, set up for the Windows 7 launch. I don't know if it's still around. So I can look around. So think of the potential this has for gaming, social sites, think of what this can do for visualization. I mean, it's really, so there's an upstairs here, a groovy little lounge. So all of this is done within Silverlight. And this is actually the Babylon Engine viewer. So I can actually have different scenes that are defined by these BSF files. And no, there's not an editor available yet. I looked, I begged, I pleaded to get one. So I mean, think about what you can do in terms of architectural diagrams. And this is all going to be available through the web. You know, this is obviously running on the web. Yeah, everything you see is all XNA. So this is all XNA compatible. So this is all being offloaded to my graphics processor. So look for a lot more developments in this space. I think this is really, it's not rocket science to imagine integrating this with something like Kinect, where I could maybe do a walking gesture and have it input that stuff. So this was really exciting, seeing this. So the other big thing was HTML5, as well as showing off IE10. And I realized that there's an E in every number between now and 32. So we'll have really cool shirts for this, or 30, actually. So here's a video that talks about how Microsoft is going to go forward with implementing the HTML5 specifications. And it's actually making fun of how another browser is doing it by implementing standards that aren't really quite ready, and what that means for web developers.
I have a great idea. I am going to build a site. I am really excited about it.
Starting in the Google Chrome release 4.249, WebSockets are available and enabled by default.
So, what is it?
WebSockets are TCP for the web, a next-generation bidirectional communication technology for web applications. We are the first to implement the WebSockets.
Great. I just used them to build my new site.
WebSockets specification was just updated to 75.
What does that mean?
WebSockets specification was just updated to 76. WebSockets specification was just updated to 77.
Why are you telling me this?
Developers should be aware that starting from Chrome 6.414, the client will talk to a server using 76th version of the protocol, so it will fail to open WebSocket based on 75 version.
My site just broke.
Since 75 version of the protocol is obsoleted and no longer supported, you need to update the server implementation.
Okay, so I just rewrote my site to the WebSocket 76.
WebSockets specification was just updated to 78. WebSockets was just updated to 79. We are making great progress.
Oh my God.
Important update. We've decided to disable support for WebSockets in Firefox 4, starting with Beta 8 due to a protocol level security issue.
You must be shitting me.
So the reason I showed you that one and not the one on the extra normal site is that it's not bleeped out. So if you search for extra normal and WebSockets, you'll get the original raw version of the audio. So the point is, and Dean Hamak, I always pronounce his name wrong, and I apologize if he's watching. Dean Hakmanovich brought up a good point, is that if you implement something that's not on a standard that's finalized, you inject a lot of risk into your projects. So the idea, and this is really what happened with IE6, is that it implemented a lot of standards that weren't really finalized. And browsers, as we're finding out, have a really long half-life. So by waiting to implement features until they're finalized is a really smart thing, because you're not polluting the web. Because, I mean, it's been 10 years since IE6 came out, and it's still a significant portion of internet traffic. So I will move on to, this will let me. Anyone know the significance of that date? Yes. So the other thing that I thought should be addressed, and I'm not knocking HTML5, although I suppose from where my bias is, it could be easily interpreted that I am. I think HTML5 is a great product, but the W3C says that this is the year that the specification will be finalized. That's not a typo. That's not a typo, and that's scary. But as we know, we're all developers here, I assume. There's done and then there's done. So what they're actually saying is that there'll be a, forget the exact verbiage, but it's done enough where it'll be, the first draft will be available in 2012. It'll be finalized in 2012. Or maybe I should use this graphic. The idea is that all the major vendors, they're targeting the 2012 date, and that's really when HTML5 is ready. Which brings me to this funny site. So there's a site called ishtml5readyyet.com. It's kind of a cheeky site if you view the source. The guy has a pretty good joke to tell, and he talks about how, yeah, you know, it's not finished in the sense of an engineering committee standards body saying it's done for all time, but it's finished enough to where you can actually start building sites with it today. In fact, if you go to beautyoftheweb.com, you'll see sites that have been built and work today in HTML5. So this is a site, it's inspired by anime. I don't speak Japanese, so hopefully they're not saying something offensive in the first 20 seconds of this. But it uses video and it uses SVG graphics. And it'll actually animate these SVG graphics to create a scene. So this girl's walking down the street, she opens up her cell phone, she gets a text message, IE9 kind of possesses her, and then everything turns magical. That's what I think the plot is. But it's really interesting, it's really creative, because SVG had never really been used in this manner. It's typically used for you know, engineering diagrams or whatever, but this is really interesting. And keep in mind, this is all HTML5, there's no Silverlight, there's no Flash, no nothing. Move on to another demo.
Question.
Yes, question.
There were some rumors that Silverlight won't be available for the web development. It will be only available for the mobile development. Now, how much we can trust Silverlight to be in the market for the next 5 years? If I want to build an application now, and then after 2 years or 3 years, Silverlight is gone, as similar to what happened to the Plus, for example, that would be a problem.
Yeah. So the question was, how can we trust that Silverlight will be around for anything but phone or device development going forward? There's no plans to shut it down that I'm aware of, so you can take my word for it. There's also typically a 10-year product life cycle. There is a future in Silverlight. I know people on the team. I know people on the evangelism team that work solely for evangelizing Silverlight. There's enough resources and commitment to it that's, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, may lightning strike me down type, because there's a storm out there. But I don't see that happening, because I think that it's gained enough traction, particularly in the line of business and enterprise space, that it's just not going to go away like DCOM Plus did. So I don't see it kind of disappearing overnight like that.